Hello crazy fam, welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Tori and this is the place where we do a lot of videos on helping you figure out adulting while I'm figuring it out myself. And I would really appreciate if you go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button down below to join the crazy fam before we get started. And this week's video is going to be a really fun one, and that is the 25 things that you should know before you move out on your own. Now I asked friends, I asked strangers for the answers to these because I didn't want it to be just my own opinions and personal experiences. I want to get a broad perspective because everybody's moving out experience is going to be a little bit different, but it's going to be one of the biggest, most exciting, nerve-wracking, risky things that you have ever done in your life, and I want to make sure you get a lot of opinions and perspectives on it. So let's go right into it because this list is long. There's everything in between. It is in no order at all. It ranges from boring like finance stuff to weird roommate things to everything in between, and let's get right started with number one, and that is slightly boring-ish one, and that is rent is not the only monthly expense that you have. Now I will have to look down at this list because, like I said, they're not just my ideas and I'm not gonna remember them all. So I'm gonna have to look down. But the point is, rent is not your only expense. A lot of times when people are looking for apartments, they're like, okay, I can afford this amount per month for rent. But rent isn't usually your only charge when it comes to housing. Coming from a previous leasing agent, I know for a fact, especially when it comes to younger people, they don't ask about the other expenses that are associated with that rent. So your rent is not your total monthly expense for your housing, let alone all your other charges, food and everything and fun. Just your apartment alone, a lot of times your utilities aren't included. So you're gonna have to pay for electric, for water, for gas, for what are some other things in between there? Trash, that's a big one that a lot of people don't think about, is most apartments do charge for your trash per month, and it's usually a flat rate. So sometimes it's like $30 a month, and that makes a big difference when a lot of us don't even want to sign up for Hulu that much. Now number two, because I don't want to talk about number one too much, and that is one that I was kind of surprised to hear from someone, and that is actually not everybody will be happy for you that you're moving out on your own and you're doing this great journey into another adventure in life. And that's so unfortunate to hear, but I'm actually, like, once someone said that, I wasn't as surprised to hear it. Now in my life, I've always had people that have encouraged me and pushed me and motivated me, but that's not the case for everybody. You have to keep that in mind, that some people that you might think are there for you and are going to motivate you might not motivate you when you plan on moving out on your own. They might be jealous of you or think that you're not ready or so many other reasons, but you just have to remember that if you're doing this for the right reasons, that's what you have to think about. You can't think always what other people are thinking and saying about your journey. This is your journey, and as long as you're being smart about it, then go for it. Do it, do it, do it, do it. And number three, oddly enough, kind of relates to number two, and that is to create a happy, positive place for yourself. So now that you're moving out on your own, no matter how toxic your childhood was or how not toxic your childhood was, you want to make sure that the adult life you are starting to build for yourself is one that makes you happy, not one that stresses you out to the point of bawling your eyes out and crawling up in a ball. You don't want that for your future. You want to make sure that you are creating a space where you're surrounding yourself by people that motivate you, make you a better person, make you a better you, that you want as part of your future life. Because you're no longer forced to be around people you don't want to be around. Yes, you might have to be with people that you're not as comfortable with or you don't like as much, but in the larger scope of things, you do not have to live with someone you hate. You don't have to spend your free time with someone that is toxic and makes you feel horrible. You don't have to do that anymore. You can build a positive, happy place for yourself. I'm not saying it's gonna be easy or a walk in the park to do it, but it is important, and I was so happy that someone said that. And number four is be careful of scams. There is a lot more out there than you think there would be, and sometimes they're easy to spot and sometimes they're not. And a lot of times people fall for both. Even the ones that you would totally think, like, how could you ever fall for that? People do, and you might be one of those people. So just keep an eye out. If something sounds too good to true, whether it's an apartment that seems like way too affordable and way too cute and way too in a nice neighborhood, it probably is fake. And if a job seems too good to be true, or if a whatever it is seems too good to be true, like, you know in the back of your head, you're like, I really want this, but is it real? You gotta do the research. I am not saying don't take on risks at all, because some of the biggest rewards come from risks, but you only have so many risks that you can take in your life and so many big ones that you can take. So make sure you are educated about your risks. You know how much control you do or don't have in the situation. So research that apartment building, research that landlord, research that job in that company, and make sure that it's real, that it's not a scam, that you're walking into it as knowledgeable as possible, or knowing that you shouldn't walk into it at all. Now, number 5 is pretty similar to number 4. It helps you avoid number 4, and that is to research. Research the not just apartment building you want to live at or house you want to live at, but research the landlord. Who is the one renting the apartment out? Does that company have a good or bad reputation? Because some of them have really, really bad ones, and you never want to live there. You never want to have them as your landlord. So make sure you do the research. And same thing with companies. There is horror stories about jobs where people are like, I wish I just looked up about this company before I started. There's plenty of times where, yes, people are just writing crappy things because they had one bad experience, and the whole thing is not bad. Now, number 6, I'm going to read directly off my paper as a direct quote from one of my friends, and that is, be able to budget and know how to cook a little. And I thought that was just super funny because I feel like that's adulting summed up into one sentence. Because if you don't have a budget, you're not gonna make it doing this. Like, you can attempt to go without a budget, but in the back of your head, you gotta have at least a little bit of a budget, or you are going to fail at adulting. You're gonna move back home. It is not gonna go well. And also, knowing how to cook for yourself a little bit is really helpful. Even if it's just mac and cheese. Every little bit counts. Every time you are not eating out at a restaurant can really help the wallet, because eating out is very, very, very expensive. You have to consider tax. Not every place does tax hot foods, but I know some places do. And then another thing is you got to factor in the tip. It makes way more of a difference than you think. That $13 meal becomes a $20 meal when you add a drink and a tip and other stuff in between. It adds up really quickly. And if you're spending that multiple times a week, oh my goodness, I don't know how any of you guys would afford that doing as an adult, because I sure cannot do that unless other people were paying for it. I definitely cannot afford to be eating out all the time. So know how to cook a little. It'll help you with adulting a lot. And number 7 from another friend or stranger is, to familiarize yourself with the neighborhood you want to live in. It's not always what you see in the movies or what you see online or what you hear from someone else that lives there. You want to do your research and really familiarize yourself with the neighborhood. But the person that said this actually came from a different perspective. Not from the perspective of, you need to be wary of your neighborhood, but instead, research your neighborhood so that you're not overwhelmed by it when you move there. So go on Google Maps, go look at the restaurants around you, what you can walk to, so you're not just there on the first day and you're like, oh my God, there's so much stuff, so many places to walk to, so many places to drive to. I don't know where anything is. I don't have a favorite restaurant. I don't know where the grocery store is. I don't know where to go shopping for a shirt. I don't know. Yeah, you don't want to do that. So they said to familiarize yourself with the neighborhood. I even did it personally, not even thinking about it when I planned to move to downtown LA. I used to do it all the time because I was so excited to move there. I would literally go on Google Maps Street View and I would pretend like I'm walking on the streets. You can literally do that. Look it up. You can click the little blue line, it'll bring you down to Street View, and you can just keep dragging like you're walking, but quicker. And you can see what is around the neighborhood you want to live in, so you have an idea where grocery stores are, how far restaurants are. You won't know everything specifically, but if you have an opportunity to go there in person, it's even better. But I know not everybody has an opportunity to really, really dive into the neighborhood before they move there. They just have a chance to maybe see the place before they move. Stop. You are about halfway through the video, and I really appreciate you watching. And if you want more content like this that helps you figure out adulting, please hit that like and subscribe button down below. It helps get my video out to more people, and it makes me know that you guys appreciate this and want this content out there. So hit that like and subscribe button. The quicker you do it, the more people that do it, the less often I say things like this. Now let's get right into the rest of the video. Now, number 8 is related specifically to your first place, and that is furniture. So I'm guessing most of you probably live at home with a family member of some sort, and you probably have furniture in your apartment. Your place might even be fully furnished with everything from a kitchen table to rugs to beds to everything in between. And it's a lot of things that you don't really think about or realize that are there because they're just there. Isn't everybody have a dining room table type of thing? And you lack that appreciation for all that stuff. And once you get your own place and you realize that half of them don't even have lights on the ceiling, that you need a lamp to see at night, It really hits you that furniture is a necessity and it's expensive. Now, I've furnished most of my apartment and my room and my spaces since I've moved out with free furniture, so I haven't had the burden of the cost too much, but that stuff costs money and you need stuff up front. So I did buy things up front, like my bed, a couch, other things in between, and then as I lived at places longer, I took advantage and was able to get free furniture from people that had moved out, sitting on the side of the road, that type of stuff. But you won't have that right away unless you're able to maybe collect it up while you live at home. If you plan on just driving a little bit outside of where you live, maybe you can collect it in your room and have like some stuff prepared, or maybe your parents will allow you to take your bedroom set with you. These little things can really make a difference because that stuff adds up quickly, and a lot of it's more expensive than you'd think. Like a carpet, oh gosh, you should look up the price of freaking carpets. They are so gosh darn expensive for like really, really cheap ones. But I could talk about furniture all day, so let's move to number 9. That is, look at your apartment, house, whatever you choose to live in at night. And look at the neighborhood at night, because so many people don't think about doing this. I am definitely a victim of it myself at times. I just lucked out. But a neighborhood, house, apartment can be so much different at nighttime. It can become a whole nother world. Like even one of my roommates right now talks about a house they moved into in Hawaii and how at nighttime it turned into a whole different world of like drunk people and strip clubs and bar type of thing. Yet in the daytime it seemed like an innocent, nice neighborhood. So you really want to do your due diligence, see it at different hours of the day, see it on the weekend compared to a weekday, so you really know what you're getting yourself into and have an idea so that you're not moving into a situation that you're not happy. Because a lot of adults, yes, I say adults, you were 18. I've had people move in with me plenty of times. They don't understand the concept of a lease. You are stuck there for 12 months to 13 months to 14 months to 15 months, whatever you sign. You are stuck there. Unless you want to pay an arm and a leg to leave, you're stuck. And if you have roommates, they have to want to leave too. You cannot leave the lease without their permission to leave or without them leaving with you. I don't know why that concept is so hard for so many people, but yes, a lease is a legal document. You are stuck there, so make sure you are happy by what you are getting yourself into. Now, there is always a way out if you have a bad situation, but it's a lot harder. So make sure that you try to do your best to not get in one of those situations. And oh my goodness, we are only on number 9 and I'm already like so far into the video, so I'm so glad I didn't end up doing 50. So let's move on to number 10 and hopefully maybe talk about them a little bit less so we can get through all of these. Number 10 is one that I think is definitely not talked about enough in videos like this, and I'm so glad that someone pointed out, and that is the politics of the state that you want to move to or that you are going to keep living in, because it can seriously be life or death for so many people. I am not a political person at all. I'm not going to push my political agenda on you, but I want you guys to be as safe as humanly possible, which unfortunately is not as easy as I would like it to be or so many people would like it to be, but it is a harsh reality. Make sure you know what you're getting yourself into and what type of situations that can happen in that state, because their political views and a lot of times they're racist views. There is no sugarcoating it. Some people move to neighborhoods that are completely and utterly racist, and it can be life-threatening to them. And I don't think racism really has to per se do with politics, but it does play a part in it. There are certain political views that really are associated with racism. And I'm not going to say any more about that. I'm going to move on to number 11. That is, and that is definitely one that relates to me a lot personally. And that is employers, future roommates, future dates, all people in between will see your social media. So some of you out there, you might want to consider filtering out what you post online. Now, I do post a lot of things that will lose me job opportunities because I talk about very controversial things. But I find the risk worth it, but I want to make sure that you go into any situation knowing that what you post online, like every grandma will ever tell you, it makes a really big difference. You might not get that college scholarship if you post that beer. And it's actually very, very true. There are so many times where you're gonna lose out on so many opportunities, or people are gonna have judgments before they even meet you because of what you post online. So just be careful. And know that whatever you choose to do has a risk associated with it, and figure out if that risk is worth it for you. I find YouTube and social media so worth it to me because it's what I love doing, and I am okay with losing a few opportunities for this, but not everybody would be. So consider that before you do it. And let's move on to number 12, is to research the crime rate in the neighborhood that you want to live in. Now, if you grew up in a really, really safe neighborhood, this is something you might not consider doing because it wasn't a harsh reality of your life. But you want to look into the neighborhood and make sure it is something that you are okay with living in. Now, you might not be able to afford the neighborhood that you really, really want to live in, that is the most safe place, but I want to make sure you don't get yourself into a situation that you are prepared for and aware of. So look up that crime rate and figure out if it's a place that you are okay with living in and that you feel safe and comfortable in. Now, I did originally move to downtown LA for my first ever move, which may or may not be a culture shock for certain people, but a lot of people told me like, oh my goodness, it's the most unsafe place. How could you ever move there, especially that young, blah, 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 blah. But it was definitely worth it to me because the crime rate wasn't as bad as some other neighborhoods that weren't that far away and were way worse. Yet people live there all the time, and downtown LA was worth the risk to me because it was a place I really wanted to live. The crime rate realistically wasn't that bad, and a lot of people that think it's really bad are talking about really, really old statistics instead of newer ones where it's a lot safer than it used to be, especially in certain areas of downtown LA. Just like any state, city, neighborhood, there's going to be certain areas that are better than others, and that's also something to consider. Don't look at the just broad spectrum of the crime rate. Look at it more specifically and find those little niches of safer neighborhoods that hopefully you'll be able to live in. And number 13, number 13, learn public transportation and weigh the inconvenience or convenience of it compared to a vehicle. So in certain neighborhoods, transportation, like public transportation, isn't really going to be an option. You're really going to need a vehicle, and you're not going to be able to do daily tasks without it because Uber is not a realistic, affordable option for a lot of people that have to be on the road more. So in your neighborhood, if you have a lot of public transportation, consider like, oh, this might actually be easier. Like New York City, no way is having a vehicle going to be easier or cheaper. You're going to want to take public transportation. But somewhere like LA, certain neighborhoods, it's going to be a lot easier than others to do public transportation. Like where I live now on the beach side, there's really not much to any public transportation. It's really limited. It would not be realistic at all for me to do public transportation. But I also don't drive that much. So is it worth paying for insurance, paying for a parking space, whatever associated costs come with you owning a vehicle? You have to decide if that is worth it to you over public transportation, if public transportation is even an option at all. And number 14 now is buy what you need, not what you want. I love this one. This is probably one of my favorite ones that I got from someone just because I'm a quotes type person. And this is such a concise, like quote type style tip for you guys. And that seriously is buy what you need, not what you want. Because moving out on your own for the first time, you're going to think like, oh, I'm going to have so many more luxuries than I had at home. No. Reality is about to slap you in the face because you're going to have so many less luxuries than you had at home because you're not going to afford all the luxuries that your parents have spent so long being able to afford to get for you. No matter what situation that you're in, most likely you are not going to have as many luxuries moving out on your own. You're going to have to start buying what you need, not what you want. You're not going to be able to buy that fancy dinner that your parents may or may not have bought for you and cooked for you. You're going to have, pasta some nights or some other sacrifices, and you have to make sure that you're okay with doing that and that you're able to do that. And it's not all bad, I promise you. There's so many other positive aspects of moving out on your own, and that includes sometimes buying things that you do want when you're able to do it. But you have to, on a normal basis, learn to buy things you need, not that you want. And number 15, which is actually going to be the last one for this video because this video has gotten a lot longer than I thought it was going to, and that is, don't just research the neighborhood, research the type of people that live in your neighborhood. And I say type because lack of a better word. From my personal experience, experience, having more diversity, having more culture in a neighborhood, a lot of times it's actually going to benefit you and going to make for a much happier environment to live in. And now everybody's choices on what they want from a neighborhood and the people that live in it is going to be different, but make sure that you do that, because just because you research a neighborhood doesn't mean you're researching who you're going to be crossing the sidewalk with, or what events are going to be going on in that neighborhood, and what type of environment you're going to have from a day-to-day life outside of your apartment or house. Now that is the last tip I am going to give you, because this video got a lot longer than I thought it was going to. Now, I did say I had 25, and I do have 25 things you should know before you move out on your own, but I'm going to post the other half, well, about half, next Wednesday, so I really would appreciate if you guys go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button down below, and if you want to hit that bell button, it'll notify you so you can hear the other half. And I hope you have a great rest of your morning, evening, night, whatever it is for you, crazy fam. I'll see you Wednesday. Psst. Yes, you watching. The second half has some really juicy